This is my kitchen as I've known it since I moved into this flat 4 years ago. I've been wanting to improve the storage situation where I currently have a number of items hanging around and looking untidy. I was able to lay my hands on a stack of MDF offcuts, 18mm thick and covered with a plastic laminate on either side. These were cut to size using a wall saw I have access to before bringing them home. I had this idea to create what I'm going to refer to as storage cubes, even though they're probably not actual cubes, as two of the sides will remain open. I had also decided to use pocket holes and screws to assemble each cube. But before assembling anything, I applied edge lipping tape to all edges that were going to remain exposed after assembly. I'm not a huge fan of this stuff, but it does look cleaner than raw MDF. You just have to be careful not to look at it too hard, or else it may peel off. Using a tip I picked up from John Heiss, I trimmed all of the excess with nothing more than a hand plane blade. There was no need for me to buy a specialist tool when I'm unlikely to repeat this job for a very long time. I also used a block plane to carefully ease over these sharp arises. I can say from experience that assembling anything on a Workmate is not easy, and it's certainly not enjoyable. Having two half-decent clamps of a reasonable length would have made this process much easier and more accurate. One thing I greatly dislike with pocket hole systems is that they only create a pilot hole in the component you're drilling. In my opinion, the smallest hole needs to be a clearance hole, large enough to accommodate the full shank diameter of the screw. With pocket hole joinery, you really do need to clamp everything tightly together first. Otherwise, as the screw bites into both halves of the joint, it will momentarily force them apart, and it's enough to ruin the alignment. In order to try and overcome this, I took a 4.5mm drill bit and carefully enlarged these holes to create actual clearance for the screw thread. I seem to have misplaced the footage where I covered each hole with a powdered filler and then painstakingly sanded it back before stabbing furiously with a paintbrush, by which point I realised that I probably could have biscuit jointed the cubes together after all. Each one of these cubes weighs a good 5 kilograms, and knowing the poor quality construction of my kitchen too well, I was apprehensive about adding 15 kilograms of weight to the top of these wall units, plus all of the items and books that I was looking to store inside. But the idea of creating cubes like this may lend itself to becoming versatile, perhaps even creative. I've been trying to use my fridge as a storage space for several years, but moisture condenses and then pools on the top surface. I've tried using a foam mat, but that still gets wet. More recently, I took a sheet of chipboard, screwed one rubber foot in each corner, and I've had this sitting on top for a while. So far it's working well, and my items remain dry. I started by placing one of my 3 storage cubes on top of this board and filled it with all of my cooking and baking books. Pro tip: if you don't like having to shop around for abnormal ingredients, do not buy one of Jamie Oliver's books. I then decided to stack a second cube on top, which has helped to maintain the potential dumping ground below. So for now, I have just the one storage cube sat on top of my uneven wall units and bearing very little weight inside. Hopefully none of this will collapse before I have a chance to find another property to move into. Thanks for watching this video, and whatever you may make of it, I do hope you have a great Christmas, and I'm always grateful for your support.